it's a ticket, talking Mazda for the biggest. That's a comma and a comma and a comma, gotta get it.
And it's a ticket, talking Mazda for the biggest. That's a comma and a comma and a comma, gotta get it. I'm a comma and a comma and a comma, gotta get it. Comma and a comma, gotta get it. And it's a ticket, talking Mazda for the biggest. That's a comma and a comma and a comma, gotta get it. I'm a comma and a comma and a comma, gotta get it. Comma and a comma, gotta get it.
All right. Thanks for joining us for another episode of Head to Head with Brian Parker. I am he. And we have our panel here today. But first, just wanted to celebrate the fact that we are now entering our 4th month on the air. The channel is growing and growing and growing. If you would like to be a panelist on Head to Head with Brian Parker, whether you agree with me or not, you still won't win. But whether you agree with me or not, we would love to hear from you. Just email us at theparkermedia@gmail.com for information, and we will get you going. If you would like to submit any content to air on Empower TV Network, same email address, theparkermedia@gmail.com. Also, if you are an entrepreneur, if you have a good service or any events that you would like for us to advertise for you, whether it's a 30-second, 45-second spot, for as low as $20 a month for up to 150 times a month, please reach out to us again at theparkermedia@gmail.com. Empower TV Network is a worldwide network. It is seen currently right now on Roku. In the near future, will be also seen on Amazon Fire and possibly even Google TV as well. International. Just looked at our last analytics, and we have reached out to even places like Chile, Valparaiso, Saint Martin. I hope I said that right, on the island of Saint Martin, and of course Quebec in Canada, United Kingdom, and Mexico as well. Don't
forget Manitoba.
Yeah, that's up in Canada too. I didn't say it because I knew I wasn't going to pronounce it right, but my wife had to chime in and remind me, don't forget Manitoba. I remember. I just said Quebec. You know, most people don't even know what that is, but most people, you know, you say Toronto, Quebec, they get it, Canada. Okay, but thank you, wifey. Anyway, so with all that said, thank you for everybody that's been watching. I'm seeing that our viewership numbers continue to rise. More and more people are finding us on Roku. If you have not found us on Roku, because maybe you're watching this on YouTube or even Facebook, please join our YouTube channel to get all the notifications anytime that we go live, we break in. Maybe I'm getting something off my chest, talking about the news of the day, anything like that, you'll get the notification. Also, if you haven't found us on Roku and you have a Roku streaming device, or you have a smart TV with the Roku app, simply go to your channel search, put in Power, the letter N, word power. It should pop up in your search box. Please add. That's the thing that you want to do. Now, let's get started. We have our panel today. I guess because I made a vow, I got to start with Lori Parker. Say hello, Lori.
Hey there, everybody.
Outstanding. Welcome, Lori. And Jermaine Parker. How you doing, sir?
Hey, brother, man, I am fired up for today, man. I'm ready to get it. Let's go.
Fired up, ready to go. We'll see why that matters in just a second. Last but certainly not least, the one that anchors it down for us, Mr. Brad Coggan. How you doing, sir?
Hey, how y'all doing? I'm feeling outnumbered. I'm surrounded by Parkers here. I'm going to stay up.
Yeah, it's like a gang. You know, Parkers are a gang.
I did see some signs earlier. You're right.
You're like, what was that?
Gang.
I saw that.
Absolutely.
What that mean? So I do have my main topic, but I do have one quick thing that I just got to get off my chest, because something's kind of really been burning me about Joe Biden's coming into the White House next month. And that is this tradition from not just Biden, but normally it's a tradition for some reason with these presidents that they decide that when they get into office, everything is, we're going to let bygones be bygones. We're not going to pursue, we're not going to investigate this, we're not going to do that. We're just going to start with a clean slate and we'll go forward. So I just want to ask a question real quick to you, Lori. If you found out that Brad committed a crime 3 years ago and you were a district attorney, would you go after Brad? Would you investigate and make sure if he did it, that he didn't need to be put away?
Absolutely. I don't think that they need to go bygones be bygones. The Republicans choose to fight dirty, and I know everyone says, or we always hear, we must go high, they go low, we go high. No, we had 4 years of foolishness. It's time for payback.
But is it really going dirty, or is it just saying, you know, the thing that ticked me off, I was all in support of impeachment. But this is the one thing that they kept saying. No one is above the law. This is why we have to do it, because we are a country of laws and no one is above the law. So if you're really saying that we're doing these investigations, we did the Mueller investigation. All of this was because we are a country of laws. We do not have kings and no one is above the law. And that was really your real motive for doing those things. Then how do you let bygones be bygones when no one is above the law? Because now you're saying, well, I think we just kind of need to move on and let the country heal. And okay, well, did they do that with Bill Cosby? Where's
They didn't do that with Obama.
Where's R. Kelly?
They didn't do it with Obama. No.
Hey, I'd like to jump in real quick. First of all, I'd like to say, Brad, I would not go after you. I don't know what these people are talking about. Whatever you did, you were just fine doing it.
Thank you.
Brad was just an example.
I'm saying, y'all try to throw Brad up on the bus. And
Always pick it on the black dude. I swear to God.
Nothing personal. It's committed a crime against the law.
She said that just like Kamala Harris too.
She did.
Damn.
yeah.
Mr. Vice President, I am speaking.
I'm speaking. Hey, but the thing is that, so I jest, right? I jest, but the same reason they're not going to do that, the same reason I would go after Brad, that's my boy. And no matter what they say, politics aside and stuff, first of all, if you're in glass, let me use all the metaphors. If you're in glass houses, you don't throw stones and stuff, because no one wants the president set that once an administration leaves, they can be prosecuted for some things that they did. Because let's be honest, every administration has their stuff. I still remember the guns thing. What was that called? Obama and the AG had going on.
Oh, Fast and Furious. Fast and Furious with Eric Holden.
Trying to trace them.
Fast and Furious.
Right. And they lost the guns, right?
Right.
They couldn't trace them and stuff. I mean, it was a dumb concept to begin with, and then it played out the way it should have. And when you talk about when they go low, we go high. Two things. Unless it's Snoop Dogg, I don't want to go that kind of high. And then two, the best time to kick somebody is when they're low because they're closer to your foot. So this whole thing, and I get what you're saying, and they should. So I'm here for common relief, Lord. They should go after them. But the thing is, this is America, and I don't know how many times I can say this on the show. We black. When they say no one's above the law, they mean y'all.
They're talking about us.
They talking about us.
Yeah, I know. But I'm just
get police escorts and we get police beat down.
Right. That's true.
Well, I think I agree with everything you said. I think you go after him with guns ablazing because he's hurt so many people in the things that he's done and said over these 4 or 5 years. He's caused a lot of pain. He's caused a lot of pain, a lot of anger. The only thing that I would say is, leave him alone, and not even leave him alone, but let's not focus on him.
Right.
Let's focus on what's going on with the rest of us. We've got this virus that's front and center. the rollout of the vaccine, you know, getting some economic relief to folks, because, you know, CDC came out and said yesterday, look, these next 3 or 4 months, we haven't seen anything yet. It's going to be the worst public health period in American history. That shit is, excuse my language, that's scary. That's scary when you talk about we haven't seen anything yet. But, you know, look, I think I've mentioned it before. I have no love for this dude or his family. I mean, I want to see them in handcuffs. I want to see them in the perp walk. Get them.
You know, and I agree with you, Brad. But I honestly believe that as big as your administration is, you should be able to multitask and do more than one thing at a time. I'm not asking Joe Biden to be hell-bent on going after Donald Trump, but I don't want him to preempt his presidency by saying we shouldn't, because whoever he puts over the Department of Justice, they do have the latitude, because he says, I don't want to politicize the DOJ, and I'm going to take you at your word. So, but I do want to know that if the Attorney General sees something that he feels or she feels is something that they should go after as a country, because we are a country of laws, that they should feel okay with doing that, but not remembering that Joe Biden came out ahead of everything and said, I don't want to do that. Well, good. You're the president. You're not going to be the AG, and you said you're going to let them do what they do. Now, he could have done that too, because maybe he built in a wall to basically say, hey, that ain't come from me. That came from the DOJ. It is in my administration, but I'm letting them run the show. So I didn't give him any direction. Maybe he was giving himself cover by saying that. If he did, bravo. But I really don't want it to be where the next Attorney General has taken a cue from him to say, well, I don't want to upset my boss by going chasing down rabbit holes that he's already said I'd rather leave alone. So if he did it for that reason,
you look right now, and the current DOJ is investigating bribery for pardons right now.
Yes.
So, and the last time I checked, the only person that could give pardon power was Trump. So, I mean, I wouldn't say that he's out by no means with the talk of pardons and stuff, and him trying to pardon himself. You know, it's funny how they went from Hunter Biden as this international criminal to I need to pardon my 3 children.
Yeah. Remember the laptop from hell? What happened to the laptop from hell that was found in a pawn shop by a blind guy that swear he saw Hunter Biden?
Yeah, all that stuff. But I'm just saying that even currently, the DOJ, and I think there should be some credit given to lifelong civil servants who've been doing their job. And I know a lot of people are like, well, everybody should have just walked out kind of thing, but you can't do that when you're in institutions and stuff. Somebody's got to stay behind and do the work to make sure that you don't walk away and people with with more nefarious ideas come in and populate the place. So, I mean, they're still doing the work. Don't, you know, Barr is, he should be disbarred, but Barr is his own guy, but even the DOJ right now is investigating Trump stuff. And I don't know if it's Barr because he knows he's losing his job in a couple months. You know, he just came out, was it Monday, and said, hey, DOJ didn't find anything with the election. And they also announced at the same time that, hey, we're investigating these pardons because there's some people trying to use money, which is illegal.
Yes.
Yeah. Now,
I feel like he's going to do enough stuff over these last 8 weeks, 12 weeks to bring up other indictments completely different than what we've been talking about a couple of years. I mean, with what he's doing with the pardon stuff, that's real and it's big. The stuff that he's doing with the with all the $150 million raised by his campaign.
The grip,
yes.
Again, I get a loss for words. You know, everything he's done. There's 127 things that he's done over the past several years that should be investigated and he should be pounced for. But I think the thing that may stick, because they may pardon him and his family from Fed crimes. The thing that may stick is what, you know, the Attorney General in New York has waiting.
Tish coming for you, buddy.
Tish is going to come after him. I think Tish should be careful because I don't want it to be about Tish. You know, chasing a big fish. Make sure it's real. Make sure you got something, and by all means, go after him.
Absolutely.
I don't want it to be about her political career, and then she's left in there with nothing.
Right. Yeah, she going out there like Elliot Ness trying to bring him in and everything. Yeah. No. And you know, I believe in justice. If he didn't do it, don't go after him for that just because we don't like him and he's a self-serving narcissistic bastard. Don't go after him for that reason. Go after, but because number one, there's so many legit things that you could go after that are real issues. But the thing is this: Trump can leave the White House, but Trumpism isn't going anywhere. This is why you still have members of Congress who are still saying if Joe Biden wins the election. It's December the 3rd. It was a month ago. What do you mean if he wins? They're still toting the line because they know that Trump is listening to them and they are afraid of a tweet. This man's power is a tweet. And they're worried that he will turn his base against them. Even when Trump isn't in office, he doesn't lose any power because his power isn't the presidency anymore. He's a martyr. He's going to take his followers with him, and he knows, like right now with the whole thing going on in Georgia, which has got to be the dumbest thing. And I said this before. You're telling everybody that the machines are no good, and I knew this was going to happen. You keep selling that, and you done told them all before that mail-in ballots is a disaster. Okay, so I can't mail in my ballot. If I go in person, it's changing it from Trump to Biden. Well, I might as well stay my ass at home. Now that's what they're talking about doing. And now they're going, oh, no, wait, you got to go vote. Mm-hmm. But you told us it doesn't work. And the problem is they're dumb enough to not only believe that, but these people, a lot of the same people that unemployment benefits are going to end, that evictions are going to end and they'll be affected by, are sending this man money for his defense that is going to a super PAC. And then another percentage of it is going to the RNC. He's making money off of trying to make you believe that he's been wrong and we need to stop the steal and we need to have these rallies. He's going to have a victory rally in Georgia this weekend. A victory rally. The only person I know that thinks he lost and still won, and I'm going to have a victory rally.
Well, you got to understand, look, one thing. So Ivanka sat down for 5 hours for a deposition, just to go back to your earlier point about them facing stuff. There's enough stuff out there. She had to sit for a deposition and talk about the misspending of the narco funds and stuff like that. There's plenty of stuff to go after. They will all, that's the reason I talk pardon and stuff. They will all face some kind of stuff, and if it's just not the federal stuff, the state stuff will follow. But to your point about Trump and the politicians and what's the delusion and stuff, you have to understand. You say Trumpism, and I say Americanism, because I think it's a bad thing. Trump's just like the future band leader right now, but there are other people who carry the baton for him and stuff. And so Republicans are just afraid. They want to stay in power and stuff. And so you have to remember when you say, well, who does that? Who fights lost causes and stuff like that? Who believes? And why would people, poor people, support this stuff? Remember when we talked about slavery and the Civil War and stuff, how many percentage of the population who actually owned slaves? Because as poor white people has pointed out before, do you know how expensive you were? Like regular people just couldn't just roll up with a Parker. You just can't. Everybody can't have a Brian Parker. You know. I mean, that's a couple houses right there. That's a couple horses, man. You at least a mule worth. Strong like mule. And so you got to think it was less than 5% of the South that actually owned slaves, but all the South went to war for the right to keep them. And so when you talk about Trumpism, again, I look at our history and I shake my head and go, nothing's changed. There's nothing new under the sun. This is America, and this is what they're about. You know, they're going to go. They've turned on everybody, and that's the reason. Remember, they turned on Fox News.
Yes.
Because Trump doesn't like him anymore.
Brian
They turned on.
He's going to start his own.
They turned
network.
on Bar now. Yeah, everybody, right? So
Raffensperger.
Is a Republican rightfully afraid of that tweet? Yeah, because he's directing the ban right now, and you could lose your whole career by not backing him up, even if you know. And what they're basically saying is that what does it matter if I say Joe Biden won or lost and stuff? I just want to keep my job, and these people can in his base, which used to be my base, will end me if I don't go along with it and stuff.
But
go ahead.
They're their jobs anyway. They're going to lose their jobs anyway. I understand
No.
Not necessarily.
Not the people that are entrenched in Republican areas where they always vote red. Those are the people that are really worried. Now, people like Mitt Romney, who's safe because there's not really anybody to challenge him around there. Now, yeah, he should have a spine. But a lot of those people, especially in Georgia and the southern states stuff, if Trump says it, they've got to back it up because the base will turn.
Because, Lori, the problem is that a lot of them will end up getting primaried by some nut job that's even crazier than they are, like a QAnon person or one of these really off-the-wall folks that believe in all these conspiracies. They'll lose the primary, and then this person will then go to the general election in a heavily red state. So they can lose their job. He's absolutely right. You just would hope, and I know I'm being, Pollyanna now, you would hope, though, that people would say, you know what, if I lose my job for doing the right thing, I can live with that. Well, they're drunk with power, and they can't live with that. They would rather be a sycophant and hold on to power than be somebody that has a morals compass and say, I did my best and it wasn't good enough because these people are crazy. Now, and my answer to that, though, is come on over to the Democratic Party, baby. Water's fine. Your party has left you. That's the problem. But to his point, Mark Sanford tried to cross Trump, gone. Jeff Flake tried to cross Trump, gone. Trump will get rid of you with a tweet. It is that doable. He is right.
Yeah, Flake was on his. I think Flake was on his way out when he threw everything into the water and just said, later for this dude. There is that governor in Massachusetts, and very liberal state. He's a Republican, and he's come out and said, no, this guy's hurting us. He's hurting the Republican Party. There are a number of Republicans who've come out and said that, but their platform is not large enough. People
correct,
because that party full of crazies is large enough to drown them out. Now, remember that Republican the other day in Georgia, or I think he was on the Elections Commission.
Yeah,
I'm a Republican. You know what I mean? This is hurting us, Mr. President. You need to stop it. All you elected officials, Loeffler and Oswald, y'all need to come out and say something. He's sounding the alarm that this is getting serious. Someone may get hurt down here, and God forbid someone does. But this is where they're leading us.
It really is.
But Trump going down there this weekend, this is what he likes to do. Nothing.
I guarantee.
Just talk. Right.
I guarantee you that rally this weekend will be more about him than it is about David Perdue and Loeffler. I guarantee it. He will not do anything to unify or to encourage people to vote. He's going to talk about how it was stolen. He's going to talk about not only how he won, but how he won by a landslide. Mm-hmm. So you can't just say, I lost by a little bit, and then but I really won by a little bit. Oh, I won by a land. Everything's got to be grandiose with this character.
Yeah.
I won by a landslide.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's true. And so I will say this, people for weeks have been talking. I think last time we did a show, because we missed last week for Thanksgiving. Thanks for getting me off, boss. I think he was like 1-22. I think he's like 1-40 now in cases and stuff.
Right.
And so I will say this: there has been election interference. but it's not the kind that he's talking about, right? It's usually the voter suppression that's going on against minorities and stuff. And to your point earlier, talking about what they talked about with the mail-in vote and stuff like that, what they talked about it being rigged and stuff like that, that was actually a suppression technique that was supposed to affect the black community and my brown communities to keep us from voting, because where does our vote matter, right? And so you're right, it's kind of turned around now. The RC chair was having a conference the other day, and that's what all people were saying was like, we need to fix this thing. You know, what's the point? So no. You know, I actually want to say, no, that was for them, not y'all. Y'all need to show up. You know, and so it's tactics.
It was some beautiful poetry that
yeah.
Help me out here. I am a little older. So the sister in Georgia,
Stacey Abrams.
Governor. Governor, what's her name?
Stacey Abrams.
Stacey Abrams.
How Stacey Abrams was cheated at a governorship.
Right.
Yep.
Yes.
It was the old expression of truth getting crushed to the ground. And here she is 3-4 years later. And my Lord, look at what's happening. Look what happened to Georgia, what has the potential of happening in Georgia with these 2 Senate seats, and then with what's happening with her. So I think when, you know, it just goes to say, and I'm not religious at all, but it just goes to show that when you are good for the people and true to the people, and eventually the people will recognize it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Work. She's been working all this time.
Oh yeah.
Brad,
Cool up top, and her feet have been moving on the bottom. And look what's happening now in Georgia as a result of her work. So,
Amen,
Brad, I don't know if you've ever cheated a black woman before. I have. That can go on for 3 or 4 years after the fact. Is all I'm saying. She will get hers in the end.
Yes.
Y'all have no fury.
Black women alone.
I have no reference point to what you're talking about, Jermaine. No,
Well, you don't need it. I'm gonna let you have mine.
Yeah,
You know,
mine too.
Don't do it.
There's a lot of pain over
Don't
here.
do it. Like shout out my wife,
Yeah, right.
being wonderful to me.
Giving
That's
honor to
right,
God.
baby.
Giving
That's
honor to
right.
God. Thank you for my wife. Thank you.
Thank my wife.
You better be full all the time.
All the time.
All the time.
But no, seriously, because like Stacey Abrams, like Brad was saying, so that election that was ran by, so Kemp was the Secretary of State, so he ran the elections. It basically stole the election in front of everybody and stuff. They're like, well, that's just the way it goes, you know. He wanted it more than you, or whatever. Again, I see it as Americanism, is what it is. But that black woman said, you know what? That's fine. I got something for your ass.
Yeah,
If
I
you ever
think
cheated a black woman out of something, she got something for your ass.
hey, I think the next state that's gonna end up like that is gonna be South Carolina. I think Jamie Harrison gonna come back too with a vengeance. He done already started his super PACs and stuff too.
I hope so. I
I don't think so.
You only,
I don't think so.
he gonna get Lindsey Graham one way or another, Jay.
I hope so.
No. Unfortunately, there's just not enough numbers in South Carolina. And South Carolina is what it is.
But see, it's like
That's
Georgia.
also like Kentucky.
Georgia is getting bluer because not because of just the regular population, but people are moving down south. I'm not talking about next election cycle or whatever. A lot more races are going to get closer, just like Texas is starting to, because people are starting to leave bigger places and they're going to
leave the coast. Yeah.
But see, when you think about Georgia, and I want you to understand that usually democracy, real democratic democracy, is co-located with industry, intelligence, and production and stuff, not rural. That's where you see your red stuff, right? And so the reason Georgia is changing, because you're right, there are a lot of people that are still moving to Atlanta at a very high pace and stuff. So that county, which helped turn the tide there, is really big. But when you look at South Carolina stuff, you look at Columbia and Charleston, and now name me another big city in South Carolina.
Orangeburg.
And so, sure. And so the problem is there's not enough metropolitan areas in South Carolina.
That is true, right?
To attract the Democratic voter, the progressive person. Because quite honestly, when people think about South Carolina, Brad, you from New York? What do you think about when you get South Carolina? Banjos, corn cobs.
You know. I
KKK.
did go to Colombia this past summer. Beautiful city. Really nice.
Beautiful.
I couldn't live there, but it's a really, really nice city.
Yeah.
But other than that, I don't know anything but cemeteries and my mama, auntie, and that's all.
Yeah, and it's just too rural, and that's the problem. That's the problem with places like that, and that's the problem with people, Republicans, rounding back to the thing that live in places like that, is that they have to be sycophants to, as you call it, Trumpism, because whatever way he goes, their fate depends on it.
Well, the reason I keep calling it Trumpism is because Trump is an opportunist. He was never a Republican, but he infiltrated the Republican Party, and he took people that were not necessarily traditional Republicans, but that's who they are associated with. And wherever he goes, they will go. If Trump says, I'm going to start my own party, and I call it the Trump Party, how many of these Republicans would stay, and how many of them would migrate to the new Trump Party?
Yeah, I mean, now, yeah.
He's in a position to clear out Fox News because of this.
Yes, with his own channel.
Yeah.
He holds that threat. All he has to do is dangle, I might run in 2024. Now Marco Rubio is pissing himself. Now Ted Cruz is like, oh, hell no. All these people that said they thought they might have a shot are going, oh, man, somebody kill him. Because they know that they won't get a shot now.
Right.
He's frozen this party.
Well, I mean, it reminds me of what Joe Madison used to always say and play when he said that Lee Atwater in the 80s, he had that conversation where he said, it's not what it was in the 1950s where we could say nigger, nigger, nigger.
Right.
It's changed. It's changed. And now we have to say things like states' rights. But now it's changed again. And Trump has gotten that whole crowd that they are speaking to. He's got them, and he's got them in a headlock. And wherever he goes, they're going to go because he's talking about the things that generation is attracted to. And it's anti-us, it's non-American, not your traditional American. It's Black, it's Latino, it's gay, it's whatever. It's all of those things that, the Democratic Party says, come on, you're with us. But so that's what it is. And that's what's leading Trump's bandwagon. And so Cruz and the other guy that you mentioned, I don't think that they have a shot, even if Trump doesn't run, because these next 3 or 4 years, it's going to be either Little Trump, DJ TJ, or Ivanka. Yeah, grooming them to take his place. Yeah, and you talked about that last time. So
and I don't think they have a chance either because they're not crazy enough.
I think what happens, really, honestly, what I think is what happens is that this sort of politics right now is kind of faddish, and it's because it's based on emotion, and it's hard to keep emotional flair high for a long time because eventually the sitting president leaves and his influence is gone. And so, he could say things and he might do rallies and stuff, but quite honestly, we've always known him to be self-absorbed and stuff. So I can't really seeing him parlaying his stuff, trying to influence elections and stuff like that. I just don't see it. You remember back in 2000 when No Limit was the thing? I mean, it was. I mean, and quite honestly, for years, I thought, I'm making them say, I thought that was never going to stop, right? Can't stop, won't stop, right? Can't stop, won't stop. And I think just like, faddish groups and stuff like that, I think that this Trumpism, while, it's having a good run and stuff, I don't think that you need to look at it long-term thinking that, like Ivanka and stuff. Ivanka's, she's got some stuff going on. And she's going to have her hands full trying to keep herself from Martha Stewart's old sale. And so, and the rest of them, I mean, obviously Eric's not that bright. and and Don Jr. I don't see it. People want to say that and stuff, but I just don't see. They're not the Rolling Stones, right? They're not an act that's going to be going on for decades and decades and stuff, and they keep selling out and stuff. Because at some point, you're getting so crazy. It's like I talk about TV shows and stuff. When you have a TV show that starts left or right or center, especially in like sci-fi stuff like that, eventually by season 3, they've gone so far in that other direction that it's hard to have a coherent reality-based series anymore, and that's kind of why they die off. Like, the first season we were fighting aliens, now we had to fight dead people. Now it's zombie aliens, now it's robots. We're just running out of stuff, and I think that the Trumpism, they're going to run out of stuff because they're not that bright, right?
I hope you,
I just don't think they're bright enough to
you're right. I hope you're right. I hope to God you're right. I
mean,
do.
the only thing I can think of that might be enough to feed that particular fire is Kamala.
Mm-hmm.
Kamala's the heir apparent. So if we're assuming Joe's going to be fine over these next 4 years, right? But he's only going to be a one-term president. I think most of us is like, no, Joe, just prop him up, stand him up, and let's get him to the finish line. I don't see him running for a second term.
I agree.
Even if he's wildly successful in his first term.
Because if he did, he would end up being 85 years old when he left. Yes.
Lori's too through. Yeah.
No.
He wasn't your first choice.
No, he was not. He's not intended to run for a second term. Absolutely not. He's not.
No.
I mean, we know that we would like or to see because I think the direction, even though Biden is there in the front, it's really Kamala. So, but I was also wanted to make a mention, and this is something that I actually watched today, which is I saw it was called The Soul of America, and it was for with Meacham, David Meacham?
John.
Okay.
John Meacham, yes. And he was actually, and this was something that was talking about how things have gone through history, talking about the suffrage movement, the KKK movement, how everything is influenced. And as I was watching it today, because I had DVR'd it, but it was just in talking about all of the things with Trumpism, and that it has even changed. Because even if you see at the beginning of the KKK, and when they were talking about that, from now you can kind of think about it in a way that Trumpism or the Republicans are kind of like the KKK party that's starting, because they still wanted to, back then, make America great again. And then talking about the internment with the Japanese, it's just, I would suggest that everyone watch it. It was very interesting. It was really a great series.
It's
but
a series.
It just kind of was not a series. It was just this one thing that they had on HBO, but it's something that is very relevant to today, and even as our politics, as we move into this new phase. Because even if you think like Biden, in a way, it is just the prop, but it's really the person behind, kind of like Reagan, where they were talking about the real movement and the talking came from Nancy. In a way.
All right. Well, thank you, Lori, for that review. Lori's reviews
of course, that's what I'm supposed to do.
Well, good. And speaking of what you're supposed to do, Lori's segment is brought to you by Penetrex.
Anyway. You know what? I've been doing this show for weeks. I ain't got no sponsorship deal. I didn't
want you to promote Penetrex, but
okay.
Yeah.
There's going to be a new product for you, Jermaine.
I'll find something a little bit more manly for us, bro, to promote. Man, need a little manscaping.
I can promote this. So you talk about what would fuel. It's the same thing as Fuel America, and so Lori's absolutely right. And I keep saying this. When I make references to what's going on, it's simply because I watched the past history of this country.
Right.
And I go, well, what is it? So, what fuels them? Well, racism. Racism has fueled this country since its founding, right? And so when you talk about, when Brad's talking about, the hatred of Kamala and stuff like that, And guys, I'll tell you right now, I love to death. I just don't see, I don't see Kamala being able to take it. That's just me. I don't see. I know Joe's 78 right now. Is it 78? Start 78.
I think he's 78. Yeah,
he's 78. So it'll be 82 going into a second term. And you know, God bless him in his health and stuff.
Right.
But the reason, and so Trump's right when he says, I can't believe that many people voted for Joe. Yeah, but what he doesn't understand is how many people voted against him. Yes. And so that's, if he wants to understand the coverage gap, that's where the gap is. He's right. I don't think the enthusiasm for Biden, I don't think anybody, I think in 2016, there were a lot of people looking at the field who really wanted Joe because he was the vice president at the time to come and run. But I don't think anybody looked at it. But black people, because we've been more astute, we understand America better than America understands herself, and simply because we see her flaws, which she still denies. Mm-hmm. So she can't admit to the way that she reacts to stuff because she hasn't dealt with that stuff. We're forced to deal with this stuff, so we look. And so when Joe primaried in South Carolina, black people looked and said, who would white people vote for? Mm. And we know why they would, because we know what their habits are, right? And so they primaried Joe based on that. And that's the reason that he's the president, because we know and we understand what white people's preferences are. We had to. Growing up, again, history and stuff, I can go back to our grandfather, you know, having to call, when he's a grown man, calling an 8-year-old and 7-year-old boy, sir, because we know what it is to be in our place, and we know what it is that y'all like. You know, we serve, our black community has served white people for so long, we know what your habits are. It was part, if we didn't want to get beat back in the day, we had to know. We had to be able to anticipate what it was that was going to satisfy and keep the peace around. And so I think it's ingrained in our DNA politically, and we understand, yeah, Bernie's ideas, that's cool and everything. I don't got nothing against Bernie and stuff, but ain't enough white people going to vote for Bernie. He ain't going to be able to take this. Mm-hmm. You know, and so we understand that.
Well, the thing too with Bernie is that it would depend a lot more on youth voting, and that was not always a certainty when it comes to election time. The thing that really pushed Joe over the finish line, and well over this time, was the youth turnout was the biggest that it has been. And Trump doesn't realize that now that you've been trying to mess with them about their TikTok, and you letting people shoot up their schools, and you doing all this stuff, and now that a lot of them have become voting age, they came out in droves. And now we made it easier. And this is something that I believe we should have always been able to do, is vote by mail. I honestly believe when you turn 18, you should automatically be able to vote. What is this registration? You're a human being. Now, whether you vote or not, that's up to you, but you should automatically be able to vote and then just be able to choose what party you want.
You are, and that's what registration is. I think, you know, otherwise, and so that's the part when we talk about fraud and stuff like that. Well, I'm a registered voter. I had to give us some personal information to make sure I am who I am.
Correct.
To be able to be eligible to vote and stuff. So that part, yes. But, you know, I think, and I shouldn't say there's no enthusiasm for Biden. I think there's an enthusiasm for politics to get back to normal, for America to be a leader in the world, seen again, for there to be decency. For, you know, it's a stock market to show, you know, they like to know what's going on. No one wants the American president weighing in on private companies and stuff and driving up stock and driving down stock and being so volatile and stuff. There's something about normalcy that's been craved and stuff. And I think, you know, the normalcy, decency, and humanity of this administration, hopefully, I pray over reform. It's something that people are very enthusiastic about.
Yes, very much so.
So please excuse me, because I'm going to change the gear. I know we only got about a handful of minutes left, and it's probably going to cause us to have to probably stop and maybe even pick up on another show. But when I originally was thinking about this show, and you saw, you know, what I sent out in the email, I really wanted to touch on something that happened as a result of the election, but it was something that I thought about through its inception. Once the election was over, there were a lot of congressional seats that got lost. You know, Max Rose in Staten Island lost because he represented part of Staten Island and the southern part of Brooklyn, which is highly conservative. Staten Island, I don't know
Republican.
where the hell they came from. They need to be upstate New York. The way their views are different than the other boroughs. But so Max Rose lost, a couple of other people lost, and they had their conference call and they started blaming it on this whole defund the police, and Republicans weaponized it and used it against Democrats and things like that. And then progressives started pushing back and saying, well, wait a minute, if you knew how to address the issue, then that would have been a problem. So I'm thinking about this show and everything, and no sooner than I do that, my main man, Barack Obama, done had a Snapchat interview and said word for word what I've been saying. And a lot of the progressives, Ilhan Omar, AOC, are pushing back on what he's saying. I don't think they're listening to him. And I don't know if y'all will agree with this, but let me read to you a little bit of what Obama said when it came to defund the police, because I think he said it as artfully as he could. He lost a big audience saying it, but it makes a lot less likely that you're actually going to get things that you want. The key is deciding, do you want to actually get something done, or do you want to feel good among the people you already agree with? And what he's basically saying is, you can want to do a certain thing, but if you present it a certain way, then you're alienating people that you could likely pull into your corner to help you get to the end result. But if you're hell-bent on calling it something that you know the other side is easily able to weaponize, then are you really doing yourself good? Or are you sitting around a bunch of other people that are listening to you say this, and they're like, yeah, it sounds like Trumpism, just on the other side. So I've always been against the whole term defund the police, because it does sound like in a vacuum, you're saying do away with. It's easy to make that case. Reform is what you're wanting to do, but you want to say defund. Now, if I say, hey, do y'all think we should reform the police? Yeah, absolutely. Okay, well, that's what they're talking about. That's what they're talking about with defunding. So why not just say reform the police? Huh?
Right.
Reallocation of funds, that's what should have been leading the narrative, because most of the funds that are put into the police are not equally distributed to social services. You know, you can have police officers who are now social workers, then going and dealing with someone who is mentally disturbed or anything. It should be a reallocation. Defund the police is a sign saying we want lawlessness. There's no police at all. And then that's what was driving a lot of these individuals with all of those crazy commercials talking about you reach the police station and, you know, leave a message and we'll get back to you in 3 days.
Because they know that there are people dumb enough to believe that that's what they're really trying to do. Because then they try to picture you looting, you burning down buildings, and now you say defund the police. Oh, why? So you can loot and burn some more buildings? Of course not. But that's how they're setting the narrative. And the problem with Democrats is they don't know how to fight back when people sit there. When somebody sits there and says, you got a booger hanging out your nose, they don't even sit there and go, no, I don't. No, I don't. They just sit there and let them keep telling people you got a booger hanging out your nose. They don't know how to fight. They let other people craft the narrative of who you are and what your message is, and they don't do any counter messaging. And when you're having to explain the position, you're already losing. If your slogan is easy enough to explain, to a point where you don't have to keep over and over saying, well, what we really mean by that is we want to reallocate the funds so that when there's a call for somebody that has a mental illness, we don't want the police showing up with all their AK-47s. We want a counselor to show up and de-escalate the situation. Man, if you got to explain that every single time like that, then your slogan is messed up.
So I'm going to disagree with you. I will disagree with all y'all. And here's why I'm going to disagree with you.
Go ahead, Black man.
Because I don't believe there's any sincerity on the other side of the argument. And so when people like the commercials that you're referring to, there's no one here, 911 and stuff. When they first said defund the police, did you think that they meant abolish the police? You didn't think that. It's the same. And the reason I say this is that, and you're right about Democrats not being able to really, they take the bait on that conversation way too much. There was an interview I saw today with Kamala when she was still a senator and was with The View and stuff. And Meghan McCain was trying to bait in with, no, do you agree with defund the police? And she's like, we've got to change our thinking and stuff about how we, because so the thing is there anything wrong with saying defund the police? I don't think so. Just same way, I don't think there's anything wrong with Colin Kaepernick taking a knee. Same way I didn't think there was anything wrong in the 70s when we put out the Black Panther Fist, the Power Fist, or when we had Black Power and Black Pride and stuff like that. There's no, like I say, there's no genuine discourse on the other side. It's all about, again, remessaging our message into something else. And so for everybody that says, oh, I would have voted, but they were talking about defunding the police and, that's just this and this and this. That's just them making, again, American history tells me, that's just them making comfortable excuses of why they don't want to do the thing that you want to do. That's all it is. It's the same excuses of when we tried it, when Black people decided, or when, I should say, other white people decided Black people should integrate in schools and stuff. And you can go back and look at the 60s, the news clips and stuff, and again, white women sitting out there, well, I just don't think it's right. Because of this and, this and this. And it's just all comfortable excuses to make not to get on board with something because we don't, in our hearts, don't want that and stuff. A lot of people understand, they understand the numbers. They understand what the message really means because they've been explained. Again, I go back to Cap. His message was explained. He explained it up front. There wasn't anything about it. And all of a sudden became an anti-American, anti-military, all this other stuff. That's just, and what I would say to you is that sometimes you just have to look people in the eye and say, fuck you. And without explanation and without any drama stuff.
I do that all the time.
And you know what I mean? Because what I'm saying is that and so what Obama, what he's saying, like, I think it turns people off. And I'm telling you, they were already turned off. Because if they were genuinely interested in the conversation, they would ask different questions. If they were genuinely interested, it wouldn't be, they're defensive for a reason. They're aggressive for a reason. They're lying for a reason.
Mm-hmm. I think and I think you brought up the great point. You brought up Kaepernick. So to Brian's point, I think by extension, you could say if this was a bad term or a bad slogan that we all came under, and this wasn't a black folks thing. Black folks didn't start defund the police. No. It came out of the Seattle, and when that was not black folks.
That's right.
But to Kaepernick, I use this example all the time that I think we even talked about it, how, Cap was trying to say something, but you guys on the other side was so shallow that you didn't hear anything about what he was talking about, police brutality. He never said anything about the flag. You know what I mean?
No.
Talking about police brutality. So it required you to go a little bit deeper, come off the surface, a bit deeper, and to hear what he's talking about. So defund the police, meaning more than that. Black Lives Matter means more than only black. We know that all lives matter. That was the point. But they can't get off of the American mindset, or we think like we have the attention span of a gnat. Like we can't get past what it is on the surface. We can't dig a little deeper. So when you say Lives Matter, it automatically triggers, no, all lives matter or blue lives matter or whatever it is. And then defund the police. Mitch McConnell had a commercial just today where he says, well, if you don't vote in Georgia, you know, if you're not supportive in Georgia, then they're going to come in with these, the Green New Deal and the defund the police. And
yes.
what the hell is he talking about? But he knows that this is where the American, traditional mainstream American mindset is.
Yeah.
From these slogans or these topics, and it goes no deeper than that. They don't want to go any deeper than that. They don't want to have a conversation. They don't want to have a discussion and go back and no. It's just what's on the surface, and that's it.
Well, and that's true. That's true too. And what I noticed too with the Kaepernick thing is that because I see it on a lot of posts when I'm on Facebook and stuff, and like I have like little groups that I'm a part of, and they're sports related. And the one thing that and I sometimes I get baited. I ain't gonna lie, I'll end up responding and go back till I just can't take it no more. Where they'll say, well, look, I just want to be able to watch sports without having to think about politics. And my response to that was, I don't think Black men being killed is political. And I think that an athlete that can identify with that kind of life can't separate himself from being an athlete just because he plays a game. So if he uses his platform to try to bring attention to it, it's not political. This is life and death.
Yes.
But because you want to be so insulated in your bubble of sports, and all you want to think about is, are they running the Tampa 2 and how they lining up, and is it a spread offense and this and that and the other, you can't let your mind expand, because sports is your little safe haven. Because they started talking about, well, this isn't the platform for that. And my question to them was, says who? Who determines when I use my platform? If I want to kneel during the national anthem, why does that make you so angry? It's because now I'm forcing you to look at something that you had no intention of looking at, and you'd rather say, I don't want to deal with that.
Yeah, I mean, have you ever called a liar in a lie and they got mad at you?
Of course.
You know, and so,
Lord,
like I said, you
all
know,
every day, Lord.
and so
that's when the show ended.
yeah, this is our last episode. Sorry about this. And so that's the thing, right? You know, because you know, we're still waiting on an official apology from the United States government about slavery.
Slavery.
We never got that. We can't, you know, talking about this current administration, when the 1619 Project came out, what did they say? Oh man, 1776, right? And they're teaching anti-American thoughts and stuff by telling you what America was actually doing and what America was up to and stuff. And so we still can't have that uncomfortable conversation. And so when we talk about Black Lives Matter and defund the police, anything that has to do with our social and economical situation stuff, social justice situation, and economics is social justice. But whenever we get into those conversations stuff, we can't fully have those conversations because we can't talk about the underlying why we're here having this conversation. We still haven't got that far yet. And that's why I say there's this honesty on the other side of being disingenuous about having those conversations, because, well, we need to talk about all of it then. And we've got to, and so the thing is that in order to have a conversation with somebody, you've got to have some basis for shared reality. You know, I can't be talking about something's red and you think it's blue. We'll never get anywhere because we've got to have some shared reality. And America does not have a shared reality about its misgivings, its misbehavior when it comes to slavery, how it's treated brown and Black people, and that stuff now. So, yeah, you're right. They do just want to watch the sports and stuff because I don't want to talk about that. I never want to talk about that. The only person that only talks about that is my uncle, my racist uncle, right?
Yeah.
And so, and even it's uncomfortable then,
Right.
you know, for them.
So
you know?
I know we're short on time. And but I do think that we all need to have those uncomfortable conversations. And I don't think it's just white folks who need to be uncomfortable. We need to deal with some of our own uncomfortable stuff as well.
Absolutely.
Whole nother,
Absolutely.
like the whole thing that we talked about with the twerking in the restaurant. We need to talk about. We need to talk about. Look, if you're wrong, you're wrong. You need to own it and listen and.
It was funny when you sent me that. The first thing I did was I clicked on it and then I read the comments underneath. And I was just like, you could almost tell by generation how people reacted to it. Because me, I applauded the brother, but I saw a lot of younger people like, they ought to be able to do what they do. Well, you playing music, what you expect them to do? And I'm sitting there thinking, okay, just because I hear music bumping outside don't mean I go out there and just start shaking my ass. That ain't what that mean. I mean, I could have made a little bit of coin like that. Don't get me wrong, but I chose not to do that. So, Lord, don't look at me like that. You know I can drop it. Don't do that.
That time when y'all was short on rent.
Yeah.
No.
You think that rent payment got paid?
Remember when I was a little short?
Who came through the clutch? Like Jordan.
Yeah. So, hey, that was affectionately known as The Last Dance. So anyway. Anyway, I'm going to shut it down, because I know I turned this into comedy hour. But yeah, thanks guys for joining us. The subjects that we talk about, we could go on and on and on for them, and we will constantly talk about them because they are meant to be a living, breathing conversation. This is not something that's happening in a bubble or a vacuum. It's something that's happening every single day that affects all of our lives. We want to be able to have these difficult conversations like Brad says, because until you can really peel it back and deal with it, it's always going to constantly be there. You can't continue to just keep sweeping things up under the rug because eventually you're just going to trip over the rug. And it's not the rug's fault. So deal with the issues, get them out there, no matter how painful they are. Deal with it, heal, move on, be better. Our kids are starting to see that we are too much of cowards to deal with these issues. And now they're starting to step out because we're turning them off. And they're looking at different things now. So as we start to die out, our kids will become more and more progressive. They will actually probably start to make better decisions because they'll see the example that we set, and hopefully they'll choose to go the other way. I would like to thank my panel for joining me today. Lori Parker, Jermaine Parker, Brad Cawthon. Guys, thank you guys so much. Continue to watch Empower TV Network. We couldn't do it without you guys. We appreciate you. We love you, and we'll see you again.
This a ticket talking Mazda for the biggest. That's a comma and a comma and a comma. Gotta get it.
And it's a ticket talking Mazda for the biggest. That's a comma and a comma and a comma. Gotta get it. A comma and a comma and a comma. Gotta get it. Comma and a comma. Gotta get it. And it's a ticket talking Mazda for the biggest. That's a comma and a